Welcome to REWA.com TV. I'm Charlie Gunningham.
And I'm Alex Lush. And in this penultimate show of the series, we're going to be getting our real estate agents to get on their soapboxes and tell us their top property issues.
And Alex is off to Midland in the suburbs section. And I'm looking at why when you're looking to invest in a property, you should look at a property manager. Now, I don't know about you, but I've just about had it up to here with the Australian stock market at the moment. Up 3% one day, down 5% the next. It seems to be about as stable as putting your money in a boat and sailing it down the Swanee River. So if you have some investment funds and you're looking where to house them at the moment, maybe it's a good time with the stability of the West Australian economy to look at the property market. As far as we can tell, about 1 in 5 properties in WA were bought for investment purposes last year, but recent figures suggest that this has fallen to 1 in 10 or 10%. Perhaps recent global uncertainties have got some of us spooked. So if you're still a bit uncertain about investing in the property market, then it's probably wise to keep things simple and hand the property over to one of these guys. So what do property managers actually do? Jenny Wood has many years' experience as a property manager and now trains property managers in her role in the WA head office of the professionals.
Well, Charlie, a property manager really acts as a conduit between the owner and the tenant, and they ensure that both parties comply with all the legal necessities, the obligations, the terms and conditions of both the lease and the Residential Tenancies Act. The beauty of having a property manager, though, is that they also remove the emotion from it and stick really to the tasks that are required.
How do you choose the right property manager?
Well, property management is a medium to long-term relationship, so it's so important that you have somebody, firstly, that A, you're confident in their ability, and B, that they offer the service level that you really need. There's little value in having a property manager that you can't communicate with effectively. There's also little value in having a property manager that can't deliver the goods that you really require. So you need to have a really good conversation with them beforehand and make sure that they have all those services that you need in managing your property effectively.
Are there pitfalls that I should be aware of?
Absolutely. Firstly, for an investment owner, the biggest pitfall is over financial commitment. And when you do that, unfortunately, it leaves the owner, the agent and the tenant all under enormous pressure. So it's very important that when you do have an investment property, that you're geared accordingly for any little shortfalls that may occur along the way. So that's the major pitfall. And
what issues will I come across if I don't use a property manager?
Well, Charlie, it's a really big task without a property manager, and particularly if it's something that you're not experienced at. One of the biggest problems is if the tenant fails to pay rent on time, then you need to pursue them. So that financial management part can be really quite awkward and uncomfortable for a lot of people. What happens also if the tenant fails to maintain the property? Will you know the proper procedures to follow in terms of notices of breach, rectification, termination, and then unfortunately you may even be ultimately going to court to recover possession of your property. So there's a lot of things involved in property management, and there's a lot of prescribed forms that you need to use as well. There are prescribed periods of time in terms of notice periods, so you need to make sure that you're fully compliant with all of those things. It would be terrible if an owner managed their own property, tenant wasn't maintaining it, they issued a notice of breach, they issued a notice of termination, got all excited and heated when the tenant didn't vacate and have already applied to court, they get to court and find that their timings were all wrong. That means they have to start the entire process again, and that could have taken them 6 to 8 weeks to actually end up at that point in court. So there are a lot of pitfalls in there in trying to manage it yourself if you don't know the ins and outs of the Residential Tenancies Act.
Vanessa Traeger has an investment property in South Guildford. Over the years, she's found that having someone else run your property for you is the only way to go.
The best thing about having a property manager is that they're just a constant liaison for the tenant, and I don't have to be that person. So if something goes wrong, like I've got a burst water pipe, which has happened recently, they'll deal with the plumber themselves, they'll get the person out there, the tenant doesn't even have to be there, they can pick up the keys directly from the office, and it just makes it a lot easier. I don't have to be on call for them.
So how much time would it take up if you were managing this property yourself?
It'd probably take up a lot of time if I was managing it myself. I'd have to be on call all the time to answer any of the tenants' questions, or if something went wrong, I'd have to be there to sort it out for them. So it really helps having a property manager.
So you're happy with your money in the property at the moment instead of the share market?
Yeah, I am. It sort of forces me to save my money putting it into the property, and it's negatively geared as well at the moment, so it's a really good tax deduction for me.
They're so often the unsung heroes of real estate, aren't they? And every day they have to do a lot of troubleshooting. But seriously, if you're looking to invest in a property, it's a good idea to take the hassle away with a REWA property manager.
In order to continue the property market moving, there has to be value, and people that are selling must price their properties extremely realistically, and as a result you'll get sales. An example is what we do every month. Our sales rates have slightly decreased, but we are selling a lot of property, and that is because we are educating vendors on their expectations, creating value, hence the investors there to pick up the property, or the owner-occupier who's looking at upgrading or in some instances downgrading.
Yeah, at present we're getting good numbers through home opens. The major feedback that we're getting from buyers has been affordability. They're also probably lacking a bit of direction government-wise, where interest rates are going to go. Those two things, confidence, affordability, plus the interest rate dilemma we face at the moment, seems to be the major talking points amongst the buyers that are coming through home opens at the moment.
I think now's a good time to buy, with interest rates at those good numbers. Prices are stabilised; they have come back since our boom. I think that it's a great time to buy, and I think that you need to look at your local marketplace rather than fixing on what the world economy is doing. Talk to your local reps and find out if your marketplace is the place to be buying or selling in.
Confidence is the major issue, but having said that, we see that it gets confused with buyers and sellers as being a timing issue, and that's the important key. I mean, it's not a timing issue. To help people with understanding the confidence in the property market, we remind them that you need to look at what's happened with Australian property as a sound investment over the last, say, 100, 150 years, rather than just looking at what's happened over the last 2 years. I mean, seriously, we're looking at maybe 10%, in the region of 10% per annum.
Property's having such a huge price on them at the moment, and people are still living in the bubble, but the bubble has popped since beginning of this year, really. And some people are still trying to get more money for their property, and they do not understand the issue that it has leveled out a little bit right now, and it's come down a little bit to realistic market value. But for example, in Wembley, people are still trying to sell their house, 400 square metre block of land with a beautiful double-storey house for about 1.4, and that's a bit unrealistic. So I think just repositioning the property would help assist in selling the property at the moment. So yeah, I think the main issue is price.
The biggest issue undoubtedly is that the people in Australia have slowed down their activities in buying and selling real estate. But it's based on the problems of the world, particularly America and Southern Europe. But for Perth and WA, there's no doubt there's future growth happening now and in the years to come. So people should realise, I think our biggest goal right now is to realise that we've got to convince the public that land has reduced, building prices have reduced, properties have reduced, it's good buying time now, and they don't really need to wait 2 years for a better market.
Look, I think the biggest issue in real estate right now is affordability. A lot of people are actually struggling on a day-to-day basis to make ends meet, and unfortunately property is one of those parts of your life that will suffer, and that goes all the way from being able to afford a mortgage and having the bank give you the money, all the way through to, I guess, the nth degree of having to pay the stamp duty. It all makes a big difference.
Around 16 kilometres east of the city is Midland, a strategic road and rail junction with links to the north and the main highway east. The name came from the Midland Railway Company, whose workshops were based here for over 80 years. The town's also the gateway to the extensive Swan Valley wine region, where wine's been made since 1829. Midland's retained many of its historic buildings, including Woodbridge here, which was built in 1885 on the banks of the River Swan. It's so well recognised that West Midland became renamed Woodbridge not so many years ago. Other historic buildings in the town include the Town Hall, Midland Post Office and the Courthouse, and they were all very much strategically positioned along the once flourishing railway line, which very much in those days formed the centre of the town. So what's here in terms of facilities? Home to around 4,000 people, it's well equipped. For shopping, you've got most of it covered at the Midland Gate Shopping Centre, a good mix of retail and a development that really changed the focus of the community in the 70s when it was built, away from the old railway. In terms of the natural environment, well, of course, you're on the Swan River with everything that has to offer, and there's plenty of beautiful parks on your doorstep. So if you're tempted to buy in Midland, what are you going to get for your money? Well, your average unit is selling for about $450,000 and your average house for about $375,000. If renting's more your thing, the average weekly rent here is about $330 a week. So you're saving money by it being slightly further out of the metro region, but there are still great links to both the city and the wine region. Well, that just about wraps it up for now. Next time in our final show, we're going to be heading to Mandurah for a slice of life south of Perth, and we're going to be talking to some real estate agents there.
And it'll be that time again. The latest September quarterly data will be out, and we'll be down at Rewa House analysing them. Until then, bye for now.
Goodbye.